We told you recently that Americans and non-Americans alike are moving money out of U.S. stock markets and into those in Europe and Asia. Well, now we're reading that Americans worried about Donald Trump are moving hundreds of millions of their dollars out of U.S. banks and into banks in countries like Switzerland. They're making one big mistake, and if you want to move your money, I'm going to tell you what that is. So we're going to go through this article from London's Telegraph talking about why America's rich are scrambling to open Swiss bank accounts over Trump fears. This can apply whether you're pro-Trump, whether you're anti-Trump. Quite frankly, I've been telling you for the last dozen years, you don't want to keep all your money in the United States, no matter whether your party's in charge or not. We have helped thousands of clients legally move their money, including many Americans. You can go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply and learn how we can help you if you have $1 million or more. But I'll share the article with you, and then I'll tell you the mistake that I think people are making in this article and how you can take what I believe are the correct actions. Families, says the Telegraph, are withdrawing hundreds of millions of dollars from U.S. accounts as concerns of capital controls grow. That's something that we've talked about before. A lot of people would have thought, oh, under Biden, under Obama, that's the kind of administration where capital controls would happen. Is Trump going to do that? I don't know, but I've taken the opinion as a former U.S. citizen, I'm agnostic to who's in power. Some of them do stuff that I like, and some of them do stuff that I don't like. None of them do everything that I like, and so I think you want to be diversified. But the article says America's elite are racing to open Swiss bank accounts and move hundreds of millions of dollars out of the country as they fear being targeted by Donald Trump. Now, whether you agree with this or not, conservatives felt the same way under Obama when they felt conservative organizations were being targeted by the IRS, for example. It does seem there's a general trend in the world. Governments in big countries are going after their citizens. That's why I've said you want smaller countries, you want neutral countries, you want to distribute your money to places where you don't live, where they have no issue with you, whether you're afraid of Donald Trump or not. The article says fears of potential restrictions on moving money overseas means ultra-wealthy Democrat families are moving huge chunks of cash out of the country as an insurance policy against the Republican administration. I don't think you should be moving your money once it's too late. And so I've been telling you for years to have an insurance policy. And what I see, particularly in the United States and particularly among American clients, because we work with folks from all over the world, the U.S. has this unique two-party system. When your party's in power, everything's great. The world's fantastic. Oh, it's never been better. And there's no need to diversify. And then when your party's out of power, holy cow, get the second passport, move the money. I say better years too early than a day too late. I'm here in Dubai. We're recording this on an iPhone in my hotel room. I'm here. This is a place where you can move some money into their banking system. Potentially the banks here are stronger than where you are now. And just by moving money into the banking system, you can, in a matter of days, get a residence permit in a tax-friendly country. This is one of 31 different countries we've helped our clients get advice on relocating to. Plus a few other non-tax-friendly countries. And so if you have cash in the bank, what difference does it make, as long as you're going to a bank that you feel comfortable with? What difference does it make if some of that is where you live and some of that is somewhere else? And by moving some of that money to another country, you can get a residence permit like in the UAE, like Malaysia, where I just came from. And you can even, in a few countries, get citizenship directly. So if you're looking for an insurance policy, you have to buy insurance before something bad happens. And so even if you're sitting there saying, hey, I'm a Trump fan, we have clients who love Trump, but they're still diversifying because maybe Trump doesn't do everything that they want. And they also realize, hey, there could come a time when bad stuff happens when my guy's not in charge. So keep that in mind. Co-head of private clients at one wealth firm said, we're talking about big chunks of money being moved. $40 million, $30 million, $100 million, and $50 million. He's expecting that, if not more. These clients are taking money out of U.S. brokerage accounts, opening accounts in Switzerland, Jersey, Guernsey, and elsewhere, including opening up trust structures abroad. It's literally a borders thing, having some money that is not domestically located in the United States. And I've told you many, many years ago, I had a business back when I lived in and was a U.S. citizen. I had a business, and I lived in California for 6 months. I know, silly me. But I was young and dumb, and so I spent 6 months in California. I filed my California tax return. I paid the taxes that I owed them, and then one day I wake up, they took some money out of my bank account, and I had to fight them for what seemed like a long time. Back then it 23 years old. And I finally got my money back after they really put me through the ringer. They literally cashed my check, but they were too incompetent. And so that's just a very basic example of what could happen when you keep all your money in one place. They can just literally go in and even make a mistake, let alone, oh, we don't agree with your politics. And I think that's the way that a lot of, again, big countries are going. There's this authoritarian trend in big countries. I'm not making that statement tied to Trump. I'm making that statement tied to the general trajectory of the world. And I'm sure there will be reasons to be concerned if a Democrat gets back in power in 4 years. I don't trust any of them. And you know who I do trust? I trust Ron Paul, who said that the walls being built are there to keep you in. And that could apply to your money as well. Look at the movements out of the U.S. stock market. If you think some of this stuff doesn't continue, and there's not a case to be made for capital controls under the guise of patriotism or anything else, I don't agree. I think you want to have some money outside of the country. While Mr. Trump, the article continues, has not directly discussed imposing capital controls, investors are fearful over what they view as the president's erratic policymaking. Head of an international affairs think tank called Chatham House says the administration could feasibly consider imposing capital controls on money entering the country as part of its agenda to weaken the dollar and attack the U.S. trade deficit. Again, I was on Biden's case for 4 years and telling people why they needed a backup plan for Biden, who wanted to raise your taxes, who I thought could have used different arguments. If you think that a populist administration couldn't say, you know, hey, why don't you just keep your money in the U.S. and make it harder to move it overseas? I just think that could happen. And if you look at it, we made a video on how Trump's plan to kill citizenship by investment. And we got thousands of comments from Americans saying, if you don't want to even live in our country, if you're Rosie O'Donnell and you move overseas and you don't even want to give up your U.S. citizenship, it should just be taken from you because you don't want to live in our great country. You think that that's not a tiny microcosm of millions of people who voted for Donald Trump? Again, we had 4 years of people who were all Donald Trump supporters as our clients, and we served them, and a couple of them became my good friends. One of them was at my birthday party. People in the United States don't get this is not about politics. It's about the general trajectory that the U.S. is heading in the wrong direction, and both parties are going to have their own agenda to keep your money in the country, and their own supporters will increasingly go along with it. Literally, people in the comments section are saying, if you don't want to even live in the United States, you shouldn't be allowed to keep your citizenship. Now you can say, that's ridiculous. That'll never happen. Those people are voting. Now the article says, and this is what I agree with, some are looking at investment migration strategies such as New Zealand's investor scheme, but others really just want to open bank accounts in Switzerland. And so you can continue to read the article on the telegraph.co.uk. I believe if you're afraid of the trajectory of your country, or if you disagree with me and you're just afraid of the trajectory under one president or one leader, I believe you want a holistic plan. That's what we offer our clients at nomadcapitalist.com/apply. I think you do want a physical place you can go. Ideally, you want to have property there. The idea of just moving, as the article said, $30 million into a bank account. Take $1 million, get a second citizenship, get a second residence somewhere, and then distribute the rest among a couple different countries. The UAE, for example, could be one option. And I'm going to come to the mistake people are making here in a minute. But we've talked about how to structure your affairs, and the article references this. You could just move money overseas in your own name. You go to a bank, you say, hey, listen, I want to move anywhere from $100 to $100 million, and there's different banks that cater to that. $100, Georgia, Ecuador, Armenia is harder these days, Cambodia potentially. If you like this kind of thing, I mean, Belarus, you know, they open bank accounts for non-residents. You can go to those places, pretty much any amount of money, get a bank account. That list is shrinking every year. Obviously, you know, what our clients do, they have more than $1 million liquid. They're looking in Singapore for a couple $100,000. They're looking in Switzerland for 1 to 2 million in many cases, all the way up the chart. So there's something for everybody. But you can hold that money in your own name. If you come here to the UAE, you want to get a golden visa with a bank deposit, that's going to generally be in your own name. You have those funds. You've just moved them overseas so someone can't push a button and take your money. You could also, option 2, set up some kind of holding company structure where you're going to hold various investments. There could be estate benefits for that for some people, and you're going to have that in a company structure. So now it's not in your name. The ultimate structure is the trust structure. And so what the article references is some people are going and setting up offshore trusts. The Cook Islands, we believe, is the platinum standard for that, but there's others in the Caribbean and elsewhere that we think are perhaps among the more nimble trusts to operate. So how you move the money is important. And here's what I think a lot of Americans will understand. Go and open a bank account in Switzerland as an individual. There's a couple banks that might open one for you. And if you have $30 million, sure, there will be more options. But thanks to Obama and what they rolled out in terms of FATCA, which requires all foreign financial institutions to tell the U.S. Treasury where U.S. persons, citizens, green card holders, etc., where they have their bank accounts, Swiss banks largely offboarded a lot of clients. That's why you see a lot of people who live in Switzerland or who became Swiss citizens, or we've had a few friends who they were dual Swiss Americans and they just gave up the U.S. citizenship because it was too hard to live in their own country, Switzerland, and maintain bank accounts as Americans. So getting a Swiss bank account, Americans have this idea like it's the Wolf of Wall Street days in the 80s and you just show up with your briefcase of cash. Most Swiss banks don't want you. The thing that we found the most success with is opening accounts there for trust structures because that's more of a passive thing. So I think Americans imagine a bank account oftentimes as being this transactional account, and they want to keep the balances as low as possible. If you have a trust structure, you might get more banks there to be interested, and that's where we've had some success. But otherwise, a lot of Swiss banks are not going to take American clients. Banks in Jersey and Guernsey are open, but they've got a lot of restrictions as well. What I've told you for years is one of the more low fee, transactional focused banks that is still in some cases open to U.S. citizens is in Singapore. You have all the stability. You have, Asia, I think is the future. You have a lot lower fees, if any fees at all, than you would have in Switzerland, where again, a lot of Americans aren't used to paying thousands and thousands of dollars in fees. I think Singapore's a place to look at. Now, some of the big banks in Singapore, because of restrictions with the SEC, they can't allow Americans to make investments. So this is a cash account. But hey, if you're looking to get your money out, you can move your cash to Singapore. You can earn an interest rate on that in US dollars, or you can convert it to any number of other currencies, which to me is one of the benefits of having your money out of US banks. You can hold 8, 10, 12 different currencies in many of these foreign banks, and you can choose which one makes you feel the most comfortable, which one you think has the best growth potential, and which one has the highest yield. So Singapore's a place that I would look at. Also here in the UAE, a place that you could look at. Banks are improving. And so you don't have to live in the place where your money's moving. In fact, when I've seen all these celebrities and wealthy people moving to the UK to get away from Donald Trump, I said, number one, not that much different. Number two, is the UK going to protect you? Now, maybe European countries, if they think that, Donald Trump is stepping over a line, maybe they would. Is that going to be the place to go if you're anti-Donald Trump? I mean, historically, if you go to the UK, not much of a difference. But even if you want to live in the UK or live in Ireland, as Rosie O'Donnell is, and we talked about that recently, you probably don't want to keep your money there. I think there are better options in Asia. What I look at for diversification, if your goal is, hey, I don't trust my country anymore, is diversification requires neutrality and it requires difference. So Singapore is probably a more neutral place than even Switzerland these days. I mean, look at what Switzerland did in the wake of the war. I mean, they broke that long-standing neutrality. So Singapore is more neutral. They do lean westward, in terms of geopolitics, but they are more neutral. Hong Kong's a place you can go and bank. I think a lot of Americans, CCP China. Yeah, it wouldn't be the worst place to have as a hedge. And, Hong Kong actually has pretty much the only place on earth where you can move US dollars between banks without clearing it through the United States. They have the chat system in Hong Kong. So, I think those are all places to consider. Where I've been, increasingly moving towards is what they call the global south. And we've talked for years about banks, for example, in Georgia. I've seen banks in Georgia. I think the service has gotten better. The stability, in my mind, is good. I mean, the two biggest banks there are traded on the London Stock Exchange. And they've really done very well. And so, if you look at countries where they're more neutral and there's a difference between the country that you're living in, you'll find the places that you want to go. I was at a wine event a number of months ago, met some people who were fans of ours there, and they said, yeah, we're looking at Cyprus for citizenship. I said, that program went away years ago. And they said, we're looking at Switzerland for banking. And I said, you want to stay away from the name brands, the brands that everyone's talking about. Again, Switzerland probably won't take you. If you have $30 million, they might talk to you. But the average person, even looking to move $1 million, that's going to be hard. If you're an American, they don't need $1 million. They have plenty of money. A lot of these banks, Singapore has plenty of money. Hong Kong, super conservative. They have plenty of money. They're not desperate for money. American money is some of the money they want the least. They'll take the rich guy from Vietnam, the rich guy from Indonesia, the rich guy who lives in the UAE, from India. That's where they're expanding. That's the money that comes with a lot less baggage. So if you're an American, you have to think outside the box a little bit. Unless you're talking about moving tens of millions, you want to look at either the global south. I do think that Georgia's banking sector has become decent. We've talked about that one. Some banks in that region, right? You don't have to hold your money in their local currency. You can hold your money in dollars. I would look at places in Asia. I would look at, can I tie it in with a residence permit? Can I go to Malaysia and get a residence permit and put my money in to get the residence permit and then use that as a bank where I can hold other currencies? That's a global south play. Thailand, investor visa, a place where you can go. I'm not moving $30 million to just one place. I'm going to diversify it a little bit so that I have multiple options, not just, hey, I hope Guernsey works out. That's the way that I play it. Now, if you want our help putting that together with having a robust banking structure, perhaps a trust structure to go with it, you can go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply. If you want to add on top of that, hey, I might as well have a place to go. And if that's just included in the deal and I just pay some fees to process an immigration application, hey, why don't I get that as well? To me, this stuff all works holistically. Your money can be somewhere else, but if you're sitting in a country that you don't trust, who knows what could happen to you? I would want a place where I could go as well as my money, but those are probably going to be, at least to some extent, different places. Maybe I have the UAE or Malaysia or Thailand or the residence. Panama is another one, by the way. Maybe I have the residence there as a backup plan, but I'm still going to keep a good chunk of money somewhere else. I'm going to be totally diversified because I don't entirely know what's going to happen next. And I want to make sure no matter what happens next, I'm covered. nomadcapitalist.com/apply if you want to work with us. You don't have to have $30 million. That is a sweet spot for us, $5 to $100 million net worths. Well, we work with clients with anyone as little as $1 million. And if you want to come and join us, even if you don't have $1 million, you can come to our live event, Nomad Capitalist Live. It is in Malaysia this September. Go to nomadcapitalist.com/live. Anyone can come and learn and start to get their head around this stuff. But you don't want to follow the herd. I've been telling you that for years. You want to find the places that not everyone's talking about, because once they're talking about it, it may be not an option for you.
This is Bali. Is how to live like a king.